How would you describe NexSan?
I would describe NexSan as a company that is basically the last of the Mohegans. We have been in storage for 25 years. We still actually manufacture, build, and design our own storage. So when you buy storage from NexSan, you get a product that has been designed, built, bench tested, burned in, unbuilt, packed, and sent to you. So we're really specialized in storage. I think one of the main things that happened as storage became a commodity, software became more important. So to a lot of people, the hardware's inconsistent. We are very consistent with our hardware.
Why is that important?
That's important, especially in the media and entertainment business. Take NFL, for example. They've got 15 petabytes of old film clips. You need to keep that in the rack for 7, 9, 10 years. You can't be replacing that gear every 3 years. So if you get it from a manufacturer that cares about mean life between failure, power, cooling, heating, to keep those drives spinning for years and years in your rack, that's really NexSan.
Would your competitors be like the Synologies and QNAPs of the world?
We are above them, but below the NetApp, Dell, HP, 3PAR, Pure, Vast. They're above us.
Now, why would you be above Synology and QNAP?
Because of the enterprise type things that we do, whether it be support, pre-build, and test our units. Those Synology ones, especially when it comes to support, they don't have the on-site engineers and the expertise to do it. If you're only going to spend, for example, a 20 terabyte Synology might be $6,000, $8,000. That's great for a small SMB guy. A 20 terabyte unit from NexSan is probably going to be double that, say $12,000, right? But with that, you get 24/7 service, you get an engineer that comes on site, and you get the expertise, right? It's almost like Drobo or those type where you can go to B&H Photo and you can buy a 12 terabyte cube. That's great for a college kid. That's great for, somebody doing movie studios or weddings. But once you step up the game and you want to get on TV or you want to have that thing run for 7 years without a blip, you want to have an enterprise class storage, and we fit in the difference. And it was always a huge difference. But now, if you know the term brackish water, the big guys are trying to come down, and the little guys like Synology and those guys are trying to come up. So it's all brackish, right? So that we're all competing for the same space. When I first went to NexSan and started selling storage, it was only EMC, it was only HP, it was only Sun. So when a NexSan unit was $50,000 and a EMC unit was $200,000, we had a pretty good open space, but that is all compressed over the last 10 years.
What's a typical use case for NexSan? Who should consider it?
A typical use case in the media and entertainment space are small to medium-sized businesses that can't buy the top 3 manufacturers. As I said before, because we test and build them, we are an enterprise class product that typically sells for less than $100 a terabyte. And one of the reasons for that is we come from an area of just selling SANs in the early 2000s. Obviously have morphed into selling NAS and unified storage, but those SANs always had to be managed by software, where your typical database and other storage manufacturers had layers and layers of software on them. That software was expensive. Most media and entertainment companies don't need those bells and whistles. They've already got their own file system. They're moving data with software. They just need a repository that's inexpensive.
Now, you've used 2 terms, a SAN and a NAS.
Yes.
What's the difference?
The difference is a SAN is a storage area network where you would need to connect that to a server that has some intelligence. The SAN can manage your RAID sets, your hot spares, and your spinning disk or your SSD disk, where a NAS has a file system on it. Obviously, NetApp was really the first big name that came out. What you can then do is have all of your users access that data via an authentication layer. So you're running on the network. 85% of media companies probably ran SANs till the last 5 years. NAS has now basically passed the 50% threshold.
What have you got that's new for us?
Basically, at NexSan, we've got a couple of things that we've done. We are now in a position where we're offering NVMe drives to handle your media if you're going to be doing a lot of transcoding or moving data. Underneath that, in the same system, we could put up to 22 terabyte, 7,200 RPM drives. So typically you would have to buy two storage systems with other manufacturers, where with NexSan you can do your transcoding and your holding or repository in the same unit.
Media, I think it's safe to say, is undergoing a lot of change right now. What are you seeing as the market developing in media? Are there new customers?
There are new customers that are coming into it, especially in the SMB space. There are a lot of that, the old push and pull method where you would go out, film, then you would take a disc or a tape and bring it back. It's now all workflow. The other thing that's really changing is the cloud. People are saying, hey, I want to do some work in the cloud, but to keep a lot of data in the cloud is very expensive. So it's really becoming a hybrid model for most of our media accounts.
So where does NexSan fit in that hybrid model?
Well, where NexSan fits in a hybrid model is that we've got the S3 APIs. So you can basically have, for example, 100 terabytes of your data sitting on 7,200 RPM drives, very inexpensive, and then you could port maybe 500 gigs, do some work on it, and then bring it back into the NexSan. So it's a hybrid model.
Where do you see the market is headed?
Well, the future for NexSan, as well as the future for M&E, is the amount of data and how quickly it's grown. Just 4 or 5 years ago, a very large enterprise would be anywhere from 500 terabytes to a petabyte and a half. Just in the last 60 days, I have had 2 20 petabyte deals that have closed. And when you think about that, I'm going to age myself. I used to go to Comdex, and I was a NexSan reseller back in those days. And I'll never forget walking into Comdex, and they had 10 units in a rack, and I think the drives were 265 gigs each. And on the top it said 250 terabytes in one rack, tape is dead, right? Now I'm selling 22 terabyte drives in a 78 bay tray. So I'm giving somebody 1.5 petabytes in 4 inches. It's amazing what has happened. And that's the change, the amount of data people have to hold. Now it's just not M&E. I'm talking about hospital records, DVS, especially digital video security, huge for NexSan. Hospitals, prisons, airports. Now all of a sudden it's facial recognition. It's not hold it for 7 days and write over it. Legally, let's hold it for 30 days. What does that do to your storage? It doesn't triple it, it quadruples it. It just grows so fast.
It almost seems to me that the gating factor in media is not the speed of our computer, but the speed of our storage.
Yes. And it always flip-flops, right? As first it was 1 gig iSCSI. Then it was 8 gig fiber. Now it's 100 gig iSCSI and 32 gig fiber. So on 32 gig fiber, if you've got 4 ports per controller, you're talking about running 15 or 16 8 gig tracks down that. That's insane just from 5 years ago. Now, the 4K, the 8K is not being used as much as you think because a lot of roadblocks cause it to shrink. But as that opens up, you'll be able to see some really interesting things starting to happen in the storage market.
For people who are looking to find storage for their network, their work group, why should they consider NexSan?
NexSan should be considered because we've been in business for 25 years. We have always catered to the SMB market. So we are enterprise storage at a price that you would not pay for the big 3 or big 4. NexSan has done this media and entertainment business for 25 years, and very few companies have been around that long. And one of those reasons is our customers continue to come back. About 80% of our business is repeat business.